Upon joining this server, I had one goal and one goal only. The goal to become the most feared player on this entire SMP. But how much would it cost? What sacrifices would I have to make? And what price would I pay to reach my goal? So sit back as I walk you through a story about chaos and redemption. But first, let's go back to the beginning. To become the most feared player, you have to get gear. Because without it, you're basically a quick drop. Also, there's only one mace on this server, and I'm committed to get it. And with that said, let's go to grinding. So after making some villagers, having a quick player interruption and getting gear, my teammate sent me cords to another base. So I quickly gathered all my stuff and went to the cords. But upon arriving to the space, I got jumped by his two owners. Since it was a 2v1, I tried to stall until my teammate arrived. Because I had strength and speed pods, I would normally be able to fight against these two players, but the fact that both of them had regeneration 3 and me having none besides eating gaps made this fight almost impossible to win by my own. But now you may ask, why the hell do they even have regeneration 3 in the first place? Well, this is the Regen SMP, a server that when you kill a player, you gain +1 level of regeneration, and if you die, you lose 1. So with that said, let's go back to the fight. At a certain point I realized that I won't be able to run for much longer, so I took matters in my own hands and went into this outnumbered battle and hoped that my teammate would arrive before I die. But I was quickly running out of gaps and was already down to my last one. And there it was. I was out of golden apples and my helmet was about to break. I mean, I had 2 enchanted ones, but I wasn't really ready to use them. Let me ask you a question. What would you do in this situation? There is not really anything I could do. Sure, I could eat the 2 notches I got, but my helmet would eventually break and I will just die. And how was I supposed to become the most feared player if I can't even win my first battle?
Bro, what are you doing in my house?
I'm a loser. I can't win a singular battle.
You're not a loser. You only are one if you give up. So lock in, dude.
You might actually be right.
Of course I am. And now get out of my house.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. My teammate eventually arrived and we got to work. We actually won. We killed one and the other one combat locked, which isn't allowed by the way. After the fight we got accusated and trash talked. I don't really understand why this guy was celebrating that much, but we didn't really care. Later we found out that the guy who combat locked never got punished, which is just hilarious. Considering that this guy was the one that accusated me for the next week and did everything in his power to get me banned. With barely any gear left, we left the area. Man, I got really close to dying. Too close. This can't happen again or I won't be so lucky next time. And with that near-death experience, I got to grinding more gear. I upgraded my villager setup and looted a lot more trial chambers. I also farmed some gold in a nearby Badlands biome to craft myself some more gaps. But on a server where you can get Regen 3 and it's almost impossible to quick drop you, there's really only one thing that sticks out. And that is... As you may already noticed, based on the first fighting scenes, is that I have the mace. I got it in the first few hours of the server, but because there were rumors that other people also got one, and there's a rule only being one able to exist on the server, I didn't want to use it without the owner's assurance. But only a few hours later, the owner logged on and gave me the permission to use it. And so I did. A player with the name of KiwiCraft, someone that I haven't fought before, asked for a fight at spawn. Me, being confident in my skills, took the chance to use my mace for the first time. But before we continue with the mace, I want to ask you to subscribe. This is my first video ever and I would really appreciate if you would give it a like. Thanks. After realizing that he had no chance to win against me without having a shield, he started running. As soon as he jumped into the ocean, I noticed that he didn't have Depth Strider on his boots. If you don't know what it does, well, it basically gives you speed, but in the water. You can literally outswim everyone that doesn't have it. After a while of fighting, I realized that I didn't have Unbreaking 3 on my helmet. It didn't really matter at the time because I had 9 stacks of XP bottles in my inventory, but in another case that could have ended very bad. Sometimes in life, when everything goes perfect, there must be that one thing that ruins your plans. In this case, it was my internet. It's completely shut off in the middle of the fight, which helped Kiwi to get away. The good thing was that I didn't die while lagging out and that Kiwi took his chance to escape and not to kill me. The bad thing was that now everyone knew that I had the mace. But maybe it wasn't that bad. I'm sure you're asking yourself, why? Wouldn't that put a massive target on my back? Well, yes, it normally would, but I somehow managed to convince him that I didn't have the mace. I just wombled something about code and textures and he believed it. I genuinely was lucky to get out of this fight alive, so after I regeared at my base, I went to check out spawn again. But before I tell you what happened, I gotta introduce you to someone. This is Univertical, one of the mace holders, claiming that he was the first one to get it. At that point in time, he didn't know that I had the original mace, and I didn't know that he also had one. So after he tried to mace me for the first time, I was very confused. I didn't record at the time, but let me give you a quick rundown of what happened. So basically he tried to mace me, I expressed my confusion in chat, and then I took some distance. Because he didn't know that I also had a mace, he wasn't cautious and just walked around. At one point he was facing away from me and I took the chance. I quickly trident it up and killed him with my mace. Because it was at spawn, he quickly returned, picked up his mace, his trident and got away. On my way back home, I saw that he was killing a naked player at spawn to get back the regeneration that he lost. Me knowing that he couldn't be that geared, rushed back and fought him for the second time.
go. I wanted to be brave, always needed to belong, be strong enough, and never have to change. I'm learning to turn my flaws into my virtue. Maybe life is supposed to be so beautifully strange. Of all the things I wanna be, maybe I'm supposed to be so beautifully strange. I'm falling into reverie. Maybe I'm supposed to be so beautifully strange.
Sometimes in life, you don't know what to feel. I should have been happy, but I wasn't. What is the point of all this killing and bringing death? What is the point of creating a reputation if no one likes you? And what is the point of becoming the most feared player if there is no one to fear you? All these questions passed through my mind as I was standing there all by myself.